Hey everyone, and welcome back. Sometimes you kind of just want to get like the simplified version of something,
Mm.
like a cheat sheet for your brain.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're doing today. We're diving into something you see every day, black plastic, right?
Right.
To take out containers, gadgets, all that jazz. And we
Mm.
kind of all just assume it gets recycled just like the other plastics.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah. You would think
But guess what?
it's not that simple.
Not that simple.
Nope.
There's a whole lot more to black plastic than meets the eye, and a lot of those recycling facilities we rely on.
Yeah,
They can't even identify black plastic properly.
that's right.
Wait, seriously? So all this time I've been like tossing my black plastic in the recycling bin thinking I'm doing a good thing.
Uh-huh.
And it's been ending up who knows where.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy.
It is pretty wild. It all comes down to the pigment that gives black plastic its color carbon black. And recycling facilities, they use these high-tech optical sensors to sort the different types of plastic. But the carbon black, it messes with those sensors,
Oh, yeah.
making the black plastic basically invisible.
Oh wow. So it's like those sensors are looking for specific fingerprints on each type of plastic
Yeah.
so they know where to send it.
Uh-huh.
But the carbon black is like throwing off the whole system.
Exactly, yeah. And since those sorting machines can't see the black plastic properly, it often gets rejected from the whole recycling stream. And then it might end up in a landfill or even contaminate other batches of perfectly good recyclable plastic.
Ugh. So even if we think we're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
we're actually kind of causing more problems.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay. So what about reusing black plastic? Like say, is it actually safe to wash out that takeout container and use it again?
That's where things get a little tricky. Remember, if the plastic can't be properly identified for recycling, there's a good chance it wasn't cleaned or processed in a way that removes potential contaminants.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm getting nervous. Contaminants, like what?
Well, back in 2018, there was this study that looked at all sorts of black plastic items, toys, utensils, the works.
Oh, wow.
They found that 40% of these items contain things like lead, mercury, and even flame retardants. Not exactly what you want near your food, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely not. This is making me think twice about using those black plastic containers for leftovers.
Mm-hmm.
But hold on, you mentioned flame retardants. What's the deal with those?
So flame retardants, or BFRs as they're often called, are these chemicals that are added to plastics to make them less flammable. Sounds good in theory, but the problem is some of these BFRs can leach out of the plastic over time into your food or into the environment, and some of them have been linked to some pretty serious health problems.
Oh, so it's like a trade-off.
Yeah.
Like they make the plastic safer from fire, but they might make us less safe in the long run.
Exactly, yeah. And one type of BFR, called decaBDE, was actually banned in the US in 2021 because of its link to cancer,
Ah.
brain development problems, and a whole bunch of other scary stuff.
Oh, man. Okay, so decaBDE is like a big no-no.
Yeah, pretty much.
But here's the thing. Researchers have found that it's still showing up in black plastic items, even though it's been banned. Like, what's going on there?
It is a really complicated situation. You see, decaBDE also has a history of being used in a totally different industry, nuclear power plants.
Wait, hold up. Nuclear power plants, how did we get from black plastic takeout containers to nuclear reactors?
I know it might sound a little strange, but there is a connection.
Okay.
decaBDE was widely used in the insulation for wires and cables at nuclear facilities because of its fire retardant properties.
I see.
And obviously, safety is super important in nuclear plants. So they have incredibly strict standards for any materials they use. And it turns out that finding a replacement for decaBDE that meets all those standards, it's not easy.
So even though it's considered too risky for like everyday products,
Yeah.
they still need it in nuclear plants.
Yeah, for now at least.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. And because of that, the EPA, that's the Environmental Protection Agency, they had to extend the deadline for phasing out decaBDE in nuclear plants.
Wow. So it's this weird situation where a chemical that's banned for consumer products is still allowed in nuclear power plants.
Yeah,
At least for now, because of safety concerns. It's like a real-life catch-22.
exactly. And it raises some really important questions about how we evaluate risk and how we prioritize the use of chemicals in different applications. We're trying to protect people from being exposed to this potentially harmful chemical. But at the same time, we need to make sure we're not compromising safety in these other critical areas. It's a tough balancing act.
This is giving me a whole new perspective on those black plastic containers piling up in my recycling bin.
Yeah.
It's not just about like tossing something away. It's about understanding the bigger picture,
Yeah.
the potential consequences, for both our health and the environment.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that even the simplest things can have these far-reaching implications that we might not even think about.
Right. It's crazy, right? Like all this time we've just been tossing our black plastic in the recycling bin, assuming it's being processed just like everything else.
Yeah.
But as we've learned today, there's a whole other side of the story.
It really is fascinating how something as seemingly simple as the color of a plastic container can lead to this, like, whole web of issues.
Yeah. And it's not just about black plastic, right? Like
Yeah.
this whole conversation is making me wonder about all the other stuff we use every day without thinking twice.
Absolutely. It's a great reminder that even the most mundane things can have these, like, far-reaching consequences that we might not even be aware of.
So we've covered the challenges of recycling black plastic, the potential dangers of reusing it, and this totally unexpected connection to the nuclear power industry. But let's be real for a second here. We can't just like snap our fingers and make plastic disappear from our lives. So what can we actually do about all of this?
That is the million-dollar question. And honestly, while there's no easy fix, there are definitely steps we can take as individuals to be more informed and make better choices.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the cheat sheet for navigating this whole world of black plastic?
Well, first and foremost, we can be more conscious consumers, right? Like before you buy something, just take a moment to think about the packaging. Is it black plastic? Are there any alternatives? Could you choose a product that comes in glass or metal or even a different color of plastic that's more easily recycled?
Right, so it's like vote with your wallet.
Exactly. Support the companies that are making an effort to use more sustainable materials and packaging.
And what about those reusable containers and water bottles we talked about earlier? That's got to be a huge step in the right direction.
Absolutely. The less single-use plastic we rely on, the better. Every little bit helps.
So reducing our reliance on black plastic is key. But what about those times when you just can't avoid it? Like say you get a new gadget or something and it comes in that like hard black plastic clamshell packaging. What do you do with that?
That's where proper disposal is super important. Don't just toss it in the recycling bin and hope for the best. Maybe do a little research and find out exactly what your local recycling facilities accept. Some communities have like special programs for hard to recycle plastics.
So it's like being a responsible plastic citizen takes a little bit of extra effort sometimes.
It does, but honestly, a few minutes of research can make a world of difference. And hey, it's a chance to learn even more about the fascinating world of recycling.
All right, I'm sold. So what we're saying is being mindful about our black plastic habits can actually have a real impact. It's not just a lost cause.
Not at all. Every little bit helps. It's all about making those informed choices and taking action based on what we know.
That's what I like to hear. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but before we wrap things up, I have one more question that's been bugging me. This whole episode has been all about black plastic, right?
Yeah.
But what about all those other colors? Like, are there other hidden stories lurking in those innocent-looking red, blue, and green plastics?
That is a fantastic question. And to be honest, it's something I've been wondering about myself. Like, this whole black plastic deep dive has really opened my eyes to the complexities of plastic, and it just makes you wonder what other secrets are out there.
Right. What if there's like a whole underground world of orange plastic controlled by, I don't know, like talking squirrels?
Well, I'm not sure about talking squirrels, but I think you're onto something. There's always more to learn, and who knows what fascinating and potentially concerning things we might find if we start digging deeper into those other types of plastic.
So basically what you're saying is the world of plastic is like this giant, colorful mystery box just waiting to be opened.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe that's a topic for another deep dive sometime down the road.
I'm adding it to the list. But for now, I think we've given our listeners plenty to chew on. So let's do a quick recap of the key takeaways from our black plastic adventure. What do you say?
Sounds good to me. So we learned that black plastic often gets rejected from recycling facilities because of that pesky carbon black pigment. We also discovered that reusing black plastic, especially for food, might not be the best idea because of the potential for those harmful chemicals like lead, mercury, and those BFRs to leach out.
And let's not forget that totally mind-blowing connection to the nuclear power industry. Remember how the EPA had to figure out how to phase out a toxic chemical while also making sure nuclear power plants could operate safely? It's a complicated world out there, folks.
It really is, and I think this whole black plastic story is a perfect example of how even the simplest things can have these ripple effects and unintended consequences that we might not even think about.
It's like a chain reaction of unexpected connections.
Exactly, and it really highlights how important it is to stay informed, ask those questions, and really make conscious choices about the products we use every day.
Love that. So, dear listeners, before you reach for that next black plastic takeout container, just take a moment to remember what we've talked about today. Maybe choose a different option, or even just start a conversation with your friends about the hidden side of plastics.
Yeah, spread the word. And remember, just because we're trying to break things down into bite-sized pieces doesn't mean we can't have those deeper, more meaningful conversations. In fact, sometimes simplifying things actually helps us see those connections more clearly.
It's funny how something as simple as black plastic can lead to such a mind-blowing conversation.
I know, right? It
Yeah.
really highlights how interconnected everything is.
Absolutely. So, dear listeners, before you grab that next black plastic takeout container, think about everything we've talked about today. Maybe choose a different option, or start a conversation with your friends about this whole hidden world of plastics.
Yeah, it's like even though we're breaking things down and trying to make them easy to understand, it doesn't mean we can't still have those deeper conversations.
Exactly. Sometimes simplifying things actually helps us see the connections more clearly.
For sure.
Well, that brings us to the end of our black plastic deep dive. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it?
It really has. We've gone from recycling woes to potential health hazards to nuclear power plants who knew black plastic could be so complicated.
Right. And hopefully we've given you a lot to think about and maybe even inspired you to learn more.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, as they say.
So until next time, stay curious, keep asking questions, and never stop exploring the world around you.
And remember, there's always more to uncover.